Good morning, everyone. I am Carrie Talent. I am a registered dietitian and do outpatient nutrition therapy. I will be teaching you healthful eating patterns today, otherwise known as nutrition. Eat like your life depends on it. So today we're going to cover the key messages from the 2015 dietary guidelines. When we want to talk about the diet, we want to look at the overall eating pattern. So the complete combination of foods and drinks that you are eating, not just what you do on weekdays versus weekends, omitting your beverages, those types of things. Your eating pattern represents the totality of all of the foods and beverages that you consume. So you want all of your nutritional needs to be met primarily through foods. Healthy eating patterns are adaptable, especially to different sociocultural and personal preferences. We can tailor it to that. So suggested dietary patterns that we're going to cover today are going to be the DASH diet, the Mediterranean diet, and plant-based diet. And we'll kind of discuss how to make that fit within your personal preferences and, again, your sociocultural preferences. So as you've all probably have seen throughout your lives, there used to be the food guide pyramid, and that has adapted and changed into My Plate. And this just represents how you want to divide your plate so that you're making sure you're getting a well balance of nutrients so that you're not over consuming one thing over the other. So a balanced plate. This is based off of the dietary patterns we're going to be talking about today. So you want at least 75% to be plant-based, 50% produce, so an emphasis on non-starchy vegetables. As you can see, the carrot and the broccoli are taking up the majority of the plate. And then whole grains and lean meats, if any, are preferred. So your lean meats, we're going to go into more detail with these, but your fish, your poultry, things like that. Your whole grains would be like your whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, oatmeal, and also your starchy vegetables, so beans and corn and potatoes. All are considered a starchy vegetable or a carbohydrate. So, first dietary pattern we're going to discuss is the Mediterranean dietary pattern. So, the greater the adherence, the better the result. And there's multiple studies, as you can see on this slide, that show following this diet and being consistent and somewhat strict with following it shows reduced blood pressure, improved cholesterol, decreased insulin resistance, or improved numbers for diabetic patients, reduced inflammation, better than traditional just low-fat diets. And as you can continue reading on, there's up to 4.5 years of follow-up with people following these diets, just having large reductions in a lot of their disease issues, whether it be heart disease, diabetes, obesity, or a combination of those things. So this diet puts an emphasis on plants. So it tells you to eat an abundance of foods from plant sources. So fruits, vegetables, to include potatoes, grains and breads, mostly unrefined or whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, and an emphasis on a variety of minimally processed, seasonally fresh, and locally grown foods. And of course, you want to be able to fit this within your budget, so whether it's frozen vegetables, frozen fruits, fresh if you can get it. Right now, farmers markets are plentiful. You can go to different farms that maybe sell blueberries or strawberries where you pick your own and get that for a lot cheaper than, or a reduced price than what you would get from the grocery store or when you purchase it out of season. But trying to stay away from those highly processed foods. If you look in your books, in section 4, which is the nutrition section, if you go to the 4th page in, you're going to see a pyramid that says healthy eating pyramid. This is basically the Mediterranean diet in the food pyramid layout. So you start at the bottom and work your way up as far as what should be the most important leading up to the tippy top of that pyramid, showing you what should be the most sparingly consumed and used. So this slide talks about the relative importance of individual components of the Mediterranean diet. So the individual components would be plant-based, increasing your seeds, nuts, your healthy fats. This diet also calls for being able to have about 4 to 6 ounces of red wine per day. That you have to discuss with your doctor whether or not it's appropriate for you to have alcohol, or even if you like it. It's not a necessary thing for you to do. But these just show percentages as far as how much they've reduced mortality with these individual components, or applying these to your dietary pattern. Again, this is like the picture that is in your book. So you'll notice that your book has a nice big section on nutrition. A lot of people that I've taught haven't really cracked open their books yet, and we're going to go through it a little bit more today so that you understand and know the resource that you have at your fingertips. So there's also the DASH and DASH2 diet. If you flip the page in your book by about 2 pages, there's going to be a section that has a red header. It says good for your heart. This is a description of the DASH diet. So DASH stands for dietary approaches to stop hypertension. You'll notice with reading this, it sounds very familiar to the Mediterranean diet. It is very familiar to it. Really trying to make changes in your lifestyle where you're putting more of an emphasis on low-fat dairy products, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, which are basically beans and lentils, lean proteins, and a little bit more plant-based is going to be way more beneficial and help you progress and get healthier. The DASH diet does discuss limited sodium of less than or equal to 1,500 milligrams per day. That is very low. So 1 teaspoon of table salt equals 2,300 milligrams of sodium. And that's about your average American's limit or max on how much sodium they should be taking in per day. So this gives a reduction to 1,500 milligrams per day. This is really difficult unless you are doing a lot of just cooking on your own, not ever eating out or anything like that. So I always say trying to stay around 2,000 milligrams is probably a happy medium and a bit more realistic for most people who are making a change. In your books, if you kind of thumb through the nutrition section towards the middle of it, unfortunately these are not numbered, the pages aren't numbered, but there is a section on dining out. And it's about 2.5 pages just of tips and things that you can apply if you do find that you do eat out, or maybe you're to the point where you're retired and you just don't feel like cooking or things like that. Trying to cook more for yourself is always going to be the best option, but again, being realistic and understanding that you probably do want to eat out every once in a while, there are some tips in there. There's also, after you turn the page for the DASH diet where the red header is, there is a shopping list you can take, which these are all healthy foods for you to be able to purchase. So this goes into detail as far as what are whole grains or examples of whole grains. And there might be a few things on here that you don't recognize, such as teff and farro, millet, freekeh, those types of things. Those are just other grains that you can find and work with. So whether you're making a salad or a kind of like a bean salad, but you're using a whole grain instead, or mixing it in with the beans, you could do that. But you'll see old-fashioned or steel-cut oats, 100% whole wheat pasta, brown rice, barley, quinoa, shredded wheat, popcorn that's not buttered. I know Some of you are shaking your head at that, but the Air Pop popcorn is going to be a better choice. And yes, getting like the Skinny Pop or the Smart Balance or I think there's another one out there, I can't remember, it's Boom something. Those are a little bit better of a choice besides the movie theater, or even if you pop it yourself and you use canola oil or olive oil as your base, just avoid putting salt and a lot of extra other stuff on it, and maybe think of using grated Parmesan to put on it to give it some flavor. Vegetables. All vegetables are great. So choosing fresh and local when possible. Frozen is also a great option. Make sure you read your labels though, because sometimes they do add sodium or seasonings and you have to watch with that. No salt added or well rinsed canned is better than none at all. So again, we have to think about our budgets. If you do purchase canned vegetables, whether they're no salt added, low salt, or anything, you still want to rinse them off really, really well so you can get all that juice that it's been sitting in out of it as much as possible, because that's where all the salt sits. So choosing leafy greens often. Prepare with healthy fats and such as olive oil or canola oil, peanut oil. Those are all good. A lot of people who may be on Coumadin or warfarin, they get nervous when we start talking about leafy greens or any green vegetables and think they can't have them. That is wrong information. What needs to happen is if you want to start eating more vegetables, you let your doctor know, and they are supposed to dose your Coumadin accordingly. You shouldn't have to not eat healthy because of a medication. It's very easy for them to adjust the dosing on that so that you can eat well for your body. Remember that corn, peas, and potatoes are high in carbohydrates and calories relative to other vegetables, so you want to treat these like a healthy starch. This is especially important for people who have insulin insufficiency, prediabetes, diabetes, those types of things where you need to watch your carbohydrate intake. But they're still a perfectly fine option, just look at it as if it's a starch. Fruit. All fruit again. So fresh and seasonal, local when possible. Frozen is a great option. Check your labels. Make sure that you're watching for any kind of additives or extra sugar. Fruits canned in water or fruit juice or light syrup are better than no fruit at all. But again, choosing fresh or frozen is a better option. Dried fruits do not have added sugar. Or purchase the dried fruits that do not have added sugar. Check your labels. Be cautious with the dried fruits though, because they can have a lot of just natural sugars because they're dehydrated, so you're really losing out on the vitamins and minerals. So the serving size with those is much smaller, so maybe 1 tablespoon up to 2. But getting those little balanced breaks where you have the craisins with the nuts and the cheese, that's a perfectly fine snack. It's well balanced. Choosing 100% fruit juice, not juice drinks. Just limit your portions on these. Again, having this is better than no fruit at all, but you really need to use caution, especially if you have blood sugar issues, because this can spike your blood sugar. And this has calories in it because it is a fruit juice. Fruit flavored foods, they do not count as a fruit. So blueberry yogurt doesn't mean you're getting a serving of blueberries. That's basically like pie filling. So just try to get regular plain Greek yogurt or a flavored Greek yogurt, and you can put some fresh fruit in it. Dannon Light and Fit Greek is a good choice. Oikos 000 is a good choice. Dannon Light and Fit also has a no artificial sugar Greek yogurt option, or even just plain Greek yogurt is fine. Has very low sugar and carbohydrates, high protein, and you can put fruit in it if you want to make it a bit more palatable. Choosing low fat or no fat milk and yogurt, so skim and non-fat or fat-free or 1% low fat milk. I say 1%, even 2% is okay. I would not go above that. Non-fat or low-fat plain yogurt, I would still choose the Greek yogurt better. The difference is the way it's filtered. You're getting way more nutrients out of the Greek yogurt and a higher protein content. Um, Choose lower calorie, lower sugar flavored yogurts if that's going to be the one that you do choose. Harris Teeter and Kroger make Carb Master. That one is not a Greek yogurt, but it also has a better control with the sugars that are in it. Fat-free and 1% low-fat cheese or ricotta cheese, 2% reduced fat or full-fat cheese, use in small amounts. Now with cheeses, use caution because they are a source of sodium regardless of the fat content. Lean meats and plant proteins. So most fish and seafood, you want to choose high in omega-3 and at least twice weekly. So your salmon, your tuna steaks or tuna packets or cans. Sardines, mackerel, herring, trout, mahi, any of your seafood, your shellfish, just use caution because they do have some cholesterol in them, but it really depends on how they're prepared. So steamed or grilled or broiled, much better than fried and breaded. Legumes and lentils, choose these instead of meat several times per week. So I am of the capacity that you need to look at this as your preferences. Yes, it's good for you to choose 1 or 2 meals a week to maybe try and just do plant-based. But again, being realistic, it's okay for you to have an animal-based protein at every meal, whether it's eggs or egg whites, or turkey bacon or turkey sausage, just watching the sodium for breakfast. Doing poultry or seafood or fish for your other meals is fine as well. Your red meats and porks, pork tenderloin is a better choice, or pork chop. For your beef, the round or loin cut, but try to use the beef or the red meat much more sparingly, maybe once a month, twice a month max. So skinless white meat poultry is going to be the best. So unfortunately, that eliminates wings and thighs and things like that. But even if you do the wings and thighs, get it skinless or take the skin off. Your pork loin I already talked about. Egg whites, whole eggs. You can limit to 1 per day. 2 egg whites equals 1 whole egg. So I always tell people mix 1 whole egg with 2 egg whites so you still get yolk and that nice yellow coloring if you're doing scrambled eggs or things like that. Fats and oils, so your nuts and nut butters. By nut butters, that would be peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, those types of things. Seeds and seed butters, so sunflower seeds can be turned into like sun butter. It's much like peanut butter. Avocados, oily fish, we already went through all of those. Those are going to be your cold water fish. Plant oils, so extra virgin olive oil, peanut oil, avocado oil, canola oil. Tub spreads that are trans fat free, use these very sparingly. So I know Country Crock and a few others have started using it with canola oil or olive oil. That would be a better choice to use. Spray butter, if you want to use real butter, get unsalted. Try to get spray butter or just be exceptionally mindful of the amount you're using. One little tab or pad is over 100 calories, so keep that in mind. All coming from fat, saturated fat. So portions matter a lot. This is really important. If you flip all the way to the end of section 4, before you get to section 5, the last page has some examples of portion sizes on it, so I want you to look at those. That's going to be important for the upcoming slides. So you can enjoy your food, just eat less of it. So avoid the oversized portions. So the mini muffins, if you want to have a muffin, as opposed to the big giant one you would get at like a coffee house or Starbucks or something like that, or Panera. Okay, so if you look in section 4 next to that dash shopping list, you're going to see this, a very similar chart to this one right here. The following slides definitely get a little detailed with numbers and all of that. It's just to give you guidelines on the food type that you're choosing, how many calories you might be aiming for, whether it's 1,200, 1,600, or 2,000, and about how many ounces per day you should be eating from each of those sections to divide out between your meals. Now, is this the Bible? No, it is not. It's just to give you some ideas of kind of how to measure things out and portion things out. So, talking about your grains, we're not going to spend a lot of time on these slides because I've taught them in the past and people have a tendency to get cross-eyed looking at all these numbers. This just gives you an idea of what 1 ounce equivalent is as far as your serving size goes. So you'll look at each chunk of calories. So for grains, if you were on a 1600 calorie diet, you would have 5 ounce equivalents to divide throughout your day. This shows you what 1 ounce looks like, so you can divide that throughout your day evenly. This is an example of how you could divide that out and the total ounce equivalents. So if you are eating less than 8 ounces per day, then you would obviously pull back on some of these portion sizes or maybe omit your grains at a snack or one of your meals. Same thing goes with your veggies. Again, this just gives you an idea of portion sizes, but at the same time, we still want you to look at having kind of an abundance of vegetables, non-starchy. So just depending on the type that you're choosing, you can see at the bottom that non-starchy is about 50 calories per cup, whereas starchy is about 160 calories per cup. Fruit, I'll just let you look at this because this is getting repetitive. Dairy products just gives you again some ideas of portion sizes and your 1 cup calorie equivalents. Meat and beans. Oils, so 1 teaspoon is how we're looking at it. And then discretionary, so this would be some leftover calories after you've kind of divided some of the other stuff out. So looking at your condiments or some fillers, alcohol, a little bit higher calorie forms of foods like cereal and biscuits, those types of things. And then this is also an example of portion sizes, which I told you at the back of section 4, you have a page that shows you all of this. And that is the end of your first class.